It only took one game for rookie linebacker Jihaad Campbell to have a major impact for the Philadelphia Eagles. In his NFL debut, Campbell finished with 3 tackles, a crucial pass breakup, and a game-changing forced fumble that helped the Eagles retake control of the game on Thursday Night Football. Campbell is already looking like yet another draft day steal by Eagles GM Howie Roseman, so let's dive into the Week 1 film in today's episode of Best Available. Anyone who has followed football at any level over the last few years shouldn't be surprised that Campbell is already having such a major impact at the NFL level. Campbell was a 5-star recruit and one of the consensus top 20 players in the country in the 2022 recruiting class out of IMG Academy. His offers included all of the big schools like Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, virtually everywhere, but Campbell ultimately decided to go to Alabama. Campbell's workload steadily ramped up during his time in Tuscaloosa, and by the time the 2024 season came around, he unlocked his full potential, earning first-team All-SEC honors with 119 total tackles, 5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Despite a strong final year at Alabama and a solid pre-draft process, there were concerns about Campbell's long-term health after a shoulder injury that required surgery, leading to Campbell almost falling out of the first round, until Eagles GM Howie Roseman stepped in. That slide allowed Howie to pick up Campbell with the 31st pick in the 2025 NFL Draft as a replacement for the injured Nakobe Dean and a perfect pairing alongside first-team All-Pro Zach Bond. Despite a very conservative ramp-up period during the offseason training and training camp, Campbell looked like a player ready to step in almost immediately in Week 1. So let's dive into that tape from Campbell's NFL debut to explain why the Eagles might have found a future star at the linebacker position. I always love watching linebackers. It's where I started in my coaching career, but I also just think it's one of the more unique positions, especially on defense, that requires the mind of a quarterback and the physicality of a defensive player. These guys have to make lightning quick decisions and be absolutely fearless. And, Campbell absolutely fits the physical role. I mean, you can see him right here. This is a rocked up, huge off-ball linebacker that checks so many of the traits in the physical boxes. But you could tell early on that this was his first NFL game. So we're going to start with a little bit of a negative, just as far as his processing, because what he sees here, he's going to see pullers. We're going to see guard pulling here, and we're going to see Luepke, the fullback, coming across the formation as well. And he's calling it out, so he's recognizing that. So we're usually wanting to spill over depending on assignments and fill where we can from backside. And Campbell's reading that. What I don't love here is just too much hesitation, right? He is just being way too timid here. And as we watch it again, you can just see he's reading the puller, but then he's getting caught of what he wants to do. And in a situation like this, we'll tape back. Nolan Smith just crushes and sets this edge against the pullers. You have this green grass. You got to read and react. I know you're being told to scrape over, but Bond's got this filled. Other D linemen's got this filled. Attack downhill. That is your responsibility, is to find those open rushing lanes and trigger downhill. There's just too much hesitancy here. He gets, blocked up. This is able to squeak out. Maybe this running back ends up bouncing out because you're flying downhill, but if you're flying downhill fast enough with enough urgency, you can at least slow him down. Now, I will give Javonte Williams credit. Thought he had a tremendous day as far as finishing runs, including this one when things should have been, all held up. But it popped up a few times early on this film from Campbell. He's kind of swimming in it. It's a little overwhelming. If your first NFL game, it's the first NFL game of the season period. Just a little hesitancy at times from him. I think this is a good example of the flip side of that, where, yes, we want to be instinctive and aggressive, but there are also times where we need to be patient and disciplined instead of hesitant. I think there's a big difference there. And I think this is a good example of being disciplined and not over pursuing. So we've got this, fake orbit, sweep. So we need to make sure we're, disciplined on the back end. But then we need to, read this. So Campbell reads outside run based on how the O-linemen are going. He needs to get going and climb to this. But, he's athletic and long enough. He makes sure he doesn't over pursue. We don't want to fly so far past this rushing lane that we can allow the running back to cut back in. So that's one of the things that with his physical tools, even when he's flying pretty quickly, he can gear down and use his length to wrap up a ball carrier. This is one of those instances you can see he starts trying to fire outside, but has to slow down as that cutback comes inside. This is part of playing a linebacker. Yes, you got to be instinctive, you got to be aggressive, you got to react quickly, but at the same time, you got to prepare for those cutbacks. So this is a good example of the flip side where, being disciplined and a little patient can be beneficial. Not a whole lot here, but I just wanted to show the motor and sideline to sideline range from Campbell. So, we're reading this potential screen here. We're getting our drop, and then we notice that Dak's escaping a sack. We got to come all the way across the field to get to him, and you can see when he's going, he can cover awful lot of ground. Not a whole lot here, but when he's operating at full speed, especially when Campbell's more comfortable with his assignments and when he can veer off of them, he's a player that I do think has legitimate sideline to sideline range. I thought this was a better job by Campbell of reacting more quickly. Again, felt like as this game went on, Campbell got more and more comfortable with his reads and what he needed to do and fill in his gap assignment. So we're going to see another pulling concept. We've got guard center pulling. So here, Campbell reads it and then reacts quickly. You can notice how much more urgency he's reacting to these pullers. Let me rewind it again real quick. You can see how quickly he reacts to the pullers this time, gets to his spot. And now, I don't know if he attacks the block as violently as I'd like to constrict this a little bit more. He gets to his spot and then kind of waits for it, right? And now, again, we're being hypercritical at this point. This is what I would want to see from a linebacker. But you can see as he gets to that spot, he gets to the spot with urgency and then slows down a little bit, kind of waiting to get blocked instead of forcing that issue. But still good urgency, reads the keys well, fires to get into his lane, stays gap sound, allows everyone else to clean up the play. We just talked about being a bit more aggressive at the point of attack, literally in the last clip. So I love to see that Campbell is actively working on these things as the game progresses. So we got Campbell here reading. He's getting second level blocked by this offensive lineman. Watch how aggressive he is with his hands to get a winning position there. He rips through that strike. You can see this this hand down here. It's going to rip through. And now he has at least some control of this situation where he can use his arms to get onto the ball carrier. I think that's a really nice move. It's, again, something I appreciate throughout this game. There are some things I was concerned with early on in the game. You can tell he's actively working on them in real time. And then by the end of this game, when we get to some of these other clips, I felt like he really started taking over the game. Some fun stuff the Eagles can do with Campbell. Here he is here. They started getting him some edge reps in this game, which I really enjoyed. Felt like mostly early down running situations. I am very curious to see how they use him, if they can use him off the edge in passing situations to rush the passer. I feel like they just trust his length and play speed to be utilized more as a zone dropper or in man coverage. But I would like to see him rush a passer a bit with those physical tools. But this is a nice job of just keeping outside contain here. He is, again, we need to reemphasize, this is not a typical edge. This is an off-ball linebacker. He's getting blocked here. I can move this a little bit for us. You can see, yes, he's getting, initially working inside. He feels that he, is a run to the outside. He needs to work back outside. Apologies on that one. Work back outside to, keep this block and allow his teammates to scrape over. This is the kind of stuff you want from a linebacker. Now, problem is he's very light off the edge, right? This is not a guy with an edge type body. So even a tight end can kind of control this, wash him down a bit. But by keeping that contained and just, focusing on continuing to get this running back to spill outside or, be hesitant about spilling outside. Because if we're going inside here, it gives him more momentum to cut outside. By focusing on this, it does allow the rest of his teammates in pursuit to help clean this up. So not a perfect play by any stance, but it's the kind of discipline you need when you're playing edge on these running downs. Now we're getting to the fun stuff. This is where I felt like Campbell really shined. We talked about how, using him off the edge in some early rundowns and how they want to use him in coverage on passing downs. Great example of why. This is Campbell right here. We'll just play it to start. Reads the seam, flies up there, gets in a great position to break this up, stay in phase with the seam. This is the stuff they drafted Campbell for. His movement skills in space allow him to stay in phase with guys going up the seam. This is a tough drop for a linebacker. Like, you are asking him to react to this. This is a tough assignment for anyone. You are asking this linebacker to react to what's going on over here as soon as the pass comes out, which he does. He reads it. He feels the seam, quickly reacts to it, and then is in the right position, because that is a tough play to be in position for. And just by being in the right place at the right time, That's a crucial breakup in this game because that could be an explosive play for Philadelphia. That's just phenomenal by Campbell. And it's, again, one of the reasons we're like, hey, maybe I'd like to see him rush the passer more. But, he has these movement skills and reaction times in coverage that he can be an asset and stuff like this. This is another example of, as he gets in an NFL weight room and just gets more acclimated to the level of play, he'll need to work on his lower body strength. Again, this is a guy kind of built like an action figure, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic there. Like, he just literally looks like that. That's the kind of athlete they're dealing with. But, I'm not talking about just edge setting, but in a situation like this, like when you've got offensive lineman giving you the momentum, he's just, that lower body strength's going to have to get there. He's going to have to go in with lower pad level, more explosion at contact, because he's just catching this blocker, right? We don't want our athletes at defender just putting hands not too wide of a base, and you're catching instead of trying to attack. What I'd like to see here, get this foot right here and launch into this. You saw Nolan Smith on that, I think it was that first play where Campbell looks a little hesitant, but, being able to stack and attack these blockers. Because if you can attack and prevent this from moving, this running back has nowhere to go. Instead, he's getting washed down pretty bad. Leads to an explosive run play. But again, this isn't something that I'm overly concerned with long term. Maybe this year it could be an issue, but as he continues to get stronger in NFL weight room, continues to work on that lower body strength, that is something that we'll clean up. It's just, I thought this was a good example to showcase, like, hey, he's a little light for a guy that has to play some edge, and this is what you can do to him. It's both a strength thing and a technique thing. So don't catch that blocker. You can see it again. You can see him almost just waiting to get clobbered instead of trying to force the issue. That will come with time. Another rep with Campbell off the edge. This time, instead of them running at him, they're trying to run away from him. He does a good job here, feeling, hey, there's not a blocker coming towards me. I need to go straight down the line. I think this is a terrible block by, is that the fullback? If you guys know me, I love my fullback, so I'm very disappointed in that block. But it's a nice job by Campbell going straight down the line when he's initially unblocked and then attacking at the ball with his tackle attempt. We force a fumble. The game changes because of this. And it's nice to see Campbell make a couple splash plays in this game for an Eagles defense that, was struggling a bit without Jalen Carter. And, that big pass breakup and this forced fumble are two huge plays for the Eagles. I thought this was a fascinating way to utilize Campbell. We can see this potential rush look here, right? And when we see linebackers roaming around, potentially blitzing, we need to make sure our protections are right, whether we're sliding 3-4 men to the left or right, regardless of what that is, And with Campbell showing a threat to blitz, I thought this concept was super interesting. So he's going to feign the blitz and then get back into coverage. It's not very impactful on this play specifically, but I'm fascinated by it because this is like the kind of movement skills that Campbell possesses. You can do stuff like this. And I think ultimately what this does is right now they pick it up well. For maybe an inexperienced quarterback or an offensive line that, just gets the protection straight up wrong, something like this where they recognize a potential Campbell blitz and are forced to slide that way, if you can rush someone from the other side and then Campbell drops back to coverage, like that's the kind of stuff that can really mess up a protection scheme and lead to some pressures and some errant throws and maybe even a forced throw to Campbell's zone when they're not expecting him to drop. In a situation maybe where they're not going for the deep shot here, let me get right here. If we're just panicking and go, we know this guy's coming across the formation and the quarterback just thinks he's blitzing, that can lead to an interception. So I'm very curious to see how the Eagles use this going forward. I thought Dak did a great job, with making sure his protections were set. This is a guy I thought had a great game on Thursday. It's a veteran quarterback. Let's see how this goes against an inexperienced guy. Very curious to see how they utilize Campbell in stuff like this going forward. It's not going to be all great for a rookie linebacker in their first game. There's just so much that you're learning at that position. It's like drinking through a fire hose. So little to work on for Campbell, but you can see the physical tools and the highs with him, where there's just stuff that he can do at the off-ball linebacker position with some edge versatility that not a lot of young guys can do. So I'm very excited to see him alongside Zach Bond. I think that is the linebacker duo of the future for Philadelphia. As much as I love Nakobe Dean, I think that injury is just going to be a long-term issue. I think he'll be more of a rotational guy if he stays in Philly alongside these two. So very excited, Campbell. What did you think from his week 1 performance? What are you looking forward to seeing from him going forward? Let me know in the comments. Until then, we'll be back on Friday, likely with some kind of Thursday night reaction. I know we usually do college videos on Fridays. I just haven't gotten enough time to catch up with all the college film. Wasn't a lot of really eye-popping performances from what I've skimmed through. So we'll be back with a Thursday night football reaction on Friday, and then we'll be back with a live stream at 11:30 a.m. on Sunday to talk about week 2. So until then, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in a couple days.